There's a particular kind of quiet that settles into a house after something like this. Not peace, not relief, just the absence of other people's noise, which after enough time starts to sound like its own kind of ringing. I bought the house 2 years before any of this started. Small, older, the kind of place realtors call full of character when they mean the kitchen hasn't been touched since 1994. I didn't buy it to impress anyone. I bought it because for the first time in my adult life, something belonged to me without a shared lease, a cosigner, or a sister 3 years younger who'd spent our whole childhood treating my belongings as a kind of communal resource she was generously allowing me to use. That's the part people don't understand when I tell this story now. It was never really about the house. The house was just the first thing I'd ever had that she couldn't eventually talk her way into. She tried anyway. It started reasonably, the way these things always do. She and her partner had built a modest following filming lifestyle content. The kind with ring lights and captions about authenticity. They needed a dedicated space. My place had a spare room with good natural light. She asked if they could use it for a bit, and because saying no to my sister has never once in my life ended the conversation, I said fine. Temporarily turned out to mean something different to her than it did to me. A key appeared that I didn't remember giving out. She'd copied the spare I kept for emergencies. Equipment started arriving. A tripod became 3 tripods. A backdrop stand became a permanent black curtain wall, bolted through drywall I'd patched myself the year before. Each individual addition was small enough that objecting felt disproportionate, which I understand now was the entire design of it. You don't announce a takeover, you accumulate one. I want to be clear, I wasn't blind to what was happening. I noticed. I just kept underestimating how far the confidence would extend, because in my family, confidence has always outrun consequence. She'd been the one who borrowed my car for a summer without asking twice. The one who used my college textbooks as collateral for someone else's favor. The pattern wasn't new. Only the stakes were. The turn came on a Thursday in March, when I came back 2 days early from a work trip and stood in my own hallway, listening to a stranger's voice coming from the spare room, talking about voltage, an electrician, hired by them, running new circuit lines through my wall for their lighting rig, without a permit, without an inspection, without so much as a text message to the man whose name was on the deed. When I asked what was happening, my sister's answer wasn't an apology. It was logistics. We needed higher amperage for the studio. You weren't home to ask. You weren't home to ask. As if my absence were the oversight, not their decision to proceed without me. I didn't raise my voice. I want to be honest about that, because I think people expect this story to have a moment where I finally snapped, said the thing I'd been holding back for 20 years. I didn't. What I felt wasn't rage. It was something colder and more clarifying. The specific disorientation of realizing that the person across from you genuinely believes your hesitation is the unreasonable variable in this situation. That your silence has been quietly recoded this whole time as consent. So I stopped being silent in the way they were used to. I started documenting instead. I photographed the cabling before anyone could clean it up. I dated everything. I found out they'd been keeping a shared cloud folder. Sloppy? The way people are when they've never once considered being caught. Full of sponsored deliverables, contractor invoices from an unlicensed electrician, and a group chat where my sister referred to my objections, when I'd finally started voicing them, as him being difficult about nothing. I didn't confront her with any of it. I called the county code enforcement office instead, and reported unpermitted electrical work at my address. I called it exactly what it was, because for once I wanted someone with actual authority to be the one saying it, not me. They came on a Tuesday, a code enforcement officer, and, because the electrical modification had been flagged as a potential fire hazard, a deputy accompanying him for the walkthrough. I remember standing on my own porch, watching 2 people in uniform review paperwork that didn't exist, ask questions my sister had no good answers for, cite violations in a tone that had no interest in family history. It wasn't dramatic. Nobody was arrested. There was no shouting, no scene for a camera that, for once, wasn't rolling. Just 2 professionals doing procedural work, treating the situation exactly as unremarkable and exactly as serious as it actually was. That was the moment her confidence finally met something that didn't run on family logic. You could see it happen in real time. The recalibration behind her eyes as she understood, maybe for the first time, that this particular room wasn't going to bend the way every other room in our shared history always had. They had 30 days to remedy the violation, or vacate the modifications entirely. They chose to pack out instead. I stood in the doorway while they carried out lighting rigs and coiled cable, and neither of us spoke much. There wasn't a version of that conversation that would have gone anywhere good, and I think we both knew it. I wish I could tell you it felt like winning. It didn't. Not really. It felt like standing in a room, that was finally, unambiguously mine again, and realizing that getting it back had cost me the version of my sister I used to believe I had. The one who, underneath all the presumption, still saw me as something other than a resource. Maybe she never was that person. Maybe I just needed a long time to stop deciding not to notice. We don't talk much now. Holidays are logistics, handled through my mother, careful and clipped. I don't know if that's a wound or a boundary. Some days it feels like both. What I kept is the house. Quiet again. The spare room empty except for the patched drywall where the cable ran. A scar I never bothered to fix all the way. I think I leave it there on purpose. Not as a trophy, just as a reminder that some rooms only become fully yours once you've had to prove it.